All right, guys, so it is factoring trinomials week 1, and go ahead and make sure you've got that part 1 notes ready to take some notes. And we're just going to start with objective 1 for this week, and that's just to review. I can multiply binomials. And we'll talk about this in the next video, but factoring trinomials is just undoing multiplication. So last week, in the last unit, we talked about multiplying binomials and how we would do that. And so now we're going to go through and we're going to do the undoing of that. So we're just going to review real quick multiplying binomials. So remember that a binomial is a polynomial that has 2 terms, while a trinomial is a polynomial that has 3 terms. You might remember standard form of a quadratic function is f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a can't be 0, because if a was 0, then that whole quadratic would no longer be a quadratic, it would just be linear. So remembering back to multiplying binomials, you always want to remember to distribute everything in the first parentheses to everything in the second parentheses. So when we look at example 1 here, we're going to do x times x and get x squared. We're going to do x times negative 3 and get negative 3x. And then we're going to do negative 4 times x and get negative 4x. And then negative 4 times negative 3, which will give us positive 12. Then we just combine our like terms. So we get x squared minus 7x plus 12. Pretty easy. And we notice, even though we had 2 negatives here, we still ended up with a positive c because a negative times a negative is a positive. The b was negative because we had 2 negatives and we're deeper into the negatives, right? So taking a look at number 2, x times x is x squared. X times 6 is 6x. 5 times x is 5x. And 5 times 6 is plus 30. And then combining our like terms, we get x squared plus 11x plus 30. Go ahead, take some time and do the rest of this page. Now that you've had some time to work through all these problems, let's take a look now and see what do we notice about our answers. So one thing that I noticed is that the leading term of all of these polynomials is simply x squared. And that's because we just have x times x as the first term in each of our binomials. So we end up with just an x squared. So the first part of each one of these, when I multiply, will always give me the leading term in my answer. I also noticed that when I had a minus minus, I would end up with a negative b and a positive c. Every time there was a negative negative, I ended up with negative b, positive c. Likewise, if there was positive positive in my binomials, I ended up with a positive b and a positive c. So the signs were the driving forces behind what came out in my answer. I also noticed that a binomial and a binomial always multiplies to be a trinomial unless the two in the binomials are opposite pairs, which we didn't have any examples like that. But noticing that the first terms multiplied to give me the first term and the last terms always multiplied to give me the last term. Stay tuned for your next video on going the backwards route. We'll be starting with our trinomial and getting back to the binomials that were multiplied to give it to you.